In 2025, the super intelligent AI system of a lonely young man warns him to ask his dream girl on a date, or he'll end up dead. Meanwhile, Stuart asks Kaylie out on a date, but the evening takes an unexpected turn after he exposes his peculiar backstory. On the beach, Danielle is blissfully sleeping with a beautiful woman. Another woman's voice suddenly awakens him since the beach was only a dream. On September 25, 2025, Counselor, a super intelligent AI, enthusiastically wakes him up in his room and tells him that he must face the outside world. However, he tightly holds his body buddy, a human figure pillow, and asks the counselor to snooze the alarm. When she informs him that he ran out of the snooze feature, he regretfully gets up. While preparing his favorite pizza shake, the AI informs him that she has accessed his dreams from last night through his body buddy and saw him dreaming about Amber again. Because it's her job to find patterns in Danielle's life so he can be happy, the AI suggests he ask Amber out rather than spending his time virtually, eating unhealthy pizza shakes, having intimate personal times, or crying in the shower. She then shows Danielle the statistics through his smartwatch, which suggests that if he doesn't interact with another human soon, the likelihood of him harming himself is 78.87%, and it's growing due to his loneliness. Still, Danielle insists on not asking Amber out on a date because it would be awkward since they are classmates. The counselor corrects him, saying that he's just scared. While playing somber music, she compares Danielle to a little cell in a large organism consisting of other cells. The counselor notes that Danielle is currently cut off from others due to his fear of rejection and low self-esteem. The counselor adds that cells self-destruct if they don't try to connect with other cells, but Danielle insists he will not do that. When it's time for class, Danielle wears his goggles, which load the virtual reality class program. When Danielle checks in, his classmates welcome him, and he joins them in a holographic classroom. The counselor comments on Amber sitting across from Danielle, saying that she's pretty, before reminding him of other methods to pass away. Annoyed by her nagging, he musters the courage to invite Amber to a virtual private chat. When she accepts, Danielle is initially speechless. After several awkward moments, Amber is about to go, assuming that the invitation was an accident. However, the young man stops her and describes how he feels like a biological cell floating in a big organism. Finding the conversation strange, Amber tells him he shouldn't come to school stoned. He assures her that he's sober, adding that they're both like cells and should stay connected. With this, Danielle finally asks Amber out on a date, and she smiles, seemingly amused. After she accepts, Danielle vomits from the anxiety of asking her out. He looks forward to finally seeing a girl in real life, and despite his current state, the counselor cheers him on. Later, he regrets setting the date, but the counselor informs him that pessimism wouldn't help him and that he must carry out his commitment to Amber. As he straps the virtual reality head nodes on, the counselor threatens him to put it down and stay in reality. Otherwise, the AI will delete herself, including the adult films she saved for him. Danielle thinks she's bluffing, so she begins erasing the films one by one to demonstrate her point. Seeing the AI seriousness, the young man stops. He finally confesses that the only reason he's frightened is because it has been a while since he has been outside in the real world. The counselor tells him that just because Danielle is a cell doesn't mean he has to live in one. Convinced, the young man prepares for his date with Amber. He begins working out, plucking his brows, and practicing conversations with a counselor who mimics Amber's voice. Danielle is now prepared to go on a date with a woman. Feeling alive and motivated to actually live this time, he vows to put an end to his bad habits and get rid of all the foolish technology that's ruining his life. Scared, the AI cautions him that not all technology is foolish. Instead of listening to her, Danielle takes a knife and places it against his body buddy's neck as he expresses his pent-up rage. He yells at the counselor to stop talking and blames her for his actions that are outside his comfort zone. He believes that he's only a cancer cell with a monotonous habit. For the 42 days and 11 hours that he's in his apartment, he doesn't do anything but get up, go to class, view adult films, and play video games, so he deserves to die. To stop him from hurting himself, the AI notifies Danielle that Amber left him a voicemail, but he is already cynical and believes she called to cancel their date. In the voicemail, however, Amber tells him that while she's nervous about meeting him in person tonight, she believes something this scary is always worthwhile. Danielle suspects the counselor faked the voicemail to convince him to go on, but she reassures him that it was a genuine message from the real girl of his dreams. Convinced, Danielle goes outside to meet his dream girl. However, when he sees her waiting, he backs up a few steps. The AI declares that the likelihood of his death has already decreased to 78% just by being outside. Encouraged, Danielle approaches Amber. She's just as nervous as he is, but when she turns around, Danielle hugs her and she embraces him in return. Danielle then breaks off the hug and apologizes, saying he has no idea why he did it. Amber confesses she understands, implying that she's just as lonely as him and that his story about the cells is right after all. They chuckle at their first inside joke. As Amber holds Danielle's hand, their counselors communicate through their smartwatches. The young man's AI confesses to her male counterpart about faking the voicemail, and the young woman's counselor also admits to doing the same, noting they both acted in the lover's best interest. Meanwhile, in an Italian restaurant, Stuart helps Kaylie to her chair. He shares that he's been dining there for years and calls his date Miss Landon, but she insists that he call her Kaylie. When he informs her that he put her bag toward the back of the chair, his voice is unusually loud, but Kaylie just says thank you. Stuart looks at the waiter who delivers their food because he recognizes him. Kaylie then shares that she has a job interview at the Marriott Hotel, which will allow her to take photography classes. However, she notices her date nervously cutting her meal for her, so Kaylie urges Stuart to relax, reminding him that they're having a nice time. Hearing this, Stuart says that he wants to be serious about their relationship, so he decides to be honest about something. Initially struggling to tell her, he finally confesses that he's from the future. When Kaylie chuckles in disbelief, Stuart claims to be from the year 2078 and used a time travel app to make a one-way trip to her present time. However, he's trapped in Kaylie's timeline since going back would disturb time itself. Seeing she's still doubtful, he shows her the time travel app, which he accesses through his watch. When he touches it, a holographic globe with a male operator greets him and notes that Stuart's area only has 4G internet, a wasteland compared to the 15G in their time. Scared and shocked, Kaylie hastily urges Stuart to switch off the app as the operator nags him for not getting vaccinated. Convinced that he's from the future, she wonders why her date traveled to this specific time, asking if he's on a mission to stop an assassination or end an evil person. However, he admits it's because he wants to date her and eventually become her boyfriend. Kaylie is astonished to hear this and wonders if she'll become famous. Stuart responds that she's actually a resident of the nursing home he works at and that he looks after her. When the woman asks Stuart why she isn't with her children, he explains that she's childless, but they can change that. Instantly, he regrets saying it as he reminds himself to take things slow. In contrast, Kaylie finds it inconceivable that she'll be confined to a nursing home in the future. Despite understanding how it's a lot to process, Stuart, who cannot help but refer to her as Miss Landon, thinks she's truly remarkable. He then feeds her while saying they have good chemistry together. Given their gap, he traveled back in time to be the same age as her so that they'll be a perfect couple. As he says these, Kaylie can barely process what he's saying. To put her at ease, Stuart shows her the footage of their time together through his time travel app. Even though old Kaylie doesn't remember his name, he assists her in setting up the television, goes with her during her bone density checkup, and joins her in celebrating her 98th birthday. This makes Kaylie nervous, so she asks him to stop the footage. After he does, she admits that she planned to spend the night with Stuart. The man assures her it's okay since he helped her in the future with her morning sponge baths. However, Kaylie finds it upsetting that they'll never be a normal couple since she won't get to meet his friends and family. Stuart suggests they see his grandmother, who's in junior high and lives nearby. The idea that she's older than his grandmother doesn't comfort Kaylie though. Stuart reveals that Kaylie will work for Marriott for 50 years before retiring. Getting sidetracked, he also remembers that the waiter will eventually become a well-known musician and the father of psych rock named Jay Weatherman. Hearing how her future career would be, Kaylie becomes concerned about her photography career, and Stuart claims that it turned into a hobby that she didn't really pursue. This upsets Kaylie, so she gets up to leave. She scolds him about traveling back in time, lying to her about who he was, and unloading her grim future on her in the hopes that it will be romantically beneficial for him. She doesn't want to be the old woman he knew in his time, and he should have stayed in his own time because he might have had a better chance with her then. Disgusted by what she just said, she tells him he's a creep, and they'll see each other in the future, leaving Stuart heartbroken. Jay then approaches Stuart with a bill, and the man tells him that his band will become well known, although the former isn't in a band yet. Stuart then activates his app, and the operator appears, noticing that the young man's date has already left. He sympathizes that the date didn't go well and then disappears since he isn't good in these situations. Instead, Stuart watches the clip of himself successfully feeding Kaylie, and the old old lady assures him that she also had a great time. Right then, the present Kaylie returns, looking for her purse. She then confronts Stuart about his intentions, knowing she'll one day be a single, childless, retired hotel worker residing in a state-funded nursing home. She considers changing this future with Stuart. She appreciates how he likes spending time with her when she is old and even made the risky decision to time travel to ask her out on a date. Still, Kaylie asks Stuart to forget the future he knows as they're going to make their own. As they leave the restaurant, Stuart jokes that she should take better care of her teeth because they will rot, but Kaylie refuses to hear anything more about the future she intends to change.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.